And welcome everybody to Around the Corn, our 6th episode of the year. I'm your host, Jaden Taylor. Alongside me here today, Tyler Reedy, as well as Logan Mosley. How you guys doing?
I just got back from South Dakota, able to catch up back on some baseball. I'm feeling good.
Yeah, doing great. Still trying to process the baseball game I called last night, but, that was just wild with the rain delay. We'll get to it in a moment, but, hey, doing well. We're back in the swing of things for the second half, and good to be here Around the Corn.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I there's a lot to talk about from last night. I don't think the call was the majority of my mind, just trying to make sure running around and not whatever the heck last night was, to say the least. It was the third time we've had a rain out on a Tuesday night. I'm not sure what it is, but it seems like Tuesday nights are the worst here in the Corn Belt League. But let's get you guys regrouped with these last couple of weeks, or this last week, here in the Corn Belt League. Let's look at last Thursday, June 30th. We're kind of ending off the first half here in this one. The first game of the day, the 17-0 win for the Filthballers. The Filthballers doubleheader over the Rail Riders. A lot of people thinking, okay, maybe the pitching quite wasn't there, the walks are going to be a big thing, but that wasn't it. 16 hits for the Filthballers, 5 different players with a multi-hit game. All 10 starters made it on base at some point, and it was truly due to the 11-run fourth inning. Following Austin Shelton, who has really been somewhat the Rail Riders' ace this season, he gave up 6 in 3 innings of work, 3 innings in the second, or 3 runs in the second, another 3 in the third. So not a horrible day, but definitely not what's normal for him. Riley Lang came in and just in 2/3 of an inning of work, gave up 5 hits, walked 4 batters, hit another, and then threw just 22 strikes among 46 pitches, just to retire 2 batters in that one. 10 runs came across while he was on the mound, and it was an 11-run fourth inning, just too much for the Rail Riders to deal with. The most impressive thing being offensively for the Filthballers, which there's a lot of impressive pieces to talk about for the Filthballers this season, was Jackson Horn, 4 for 4 on the day with 3 singles and a double, came around to score twice and brought in 4. And this game, I think, truly was the reason Horn was one of our Hitter of the Week nominees, and was really close with Ty Beasley, who won. It was kind of right niche and niche with him through the end of that one. On the mound for the Filthballers, Justin Drury threw 5 innings of work, which was really all he needed for that one with the complete game mercy rule, a shutout on 3 hits while striking out 7, and a night like him secured him a Pitcher of the Week spot. And Tyler, it's a great start for these next week for the Filthballers, and a great win up against somewhat of a struggling team in the Rail Riders that we saw this past week.
Yeah, and they put themselves in a great position, seeing that day was a doubleheader for them, when you can shorten the game to just 5 innings and only have to cycle through 1 pitcher when Drury's dealing and the game is shortened. You're in excellent position for the second game, and you saw against the Crop Dusters, we'll get to in a moment, a little closer than expected, but to come out of it 2-0, to have such an emphatic win, and to have a whole handful of guys producing and driving in runs and scoring runs across the board offensively, that just does so much for your team's confidence, and they should feel great going into the second half.
Yeah, the Rail Riders dropping 4 straight. We saw it in a couple days before on Tuesday. It was just, really too much for the Rail Riders. The pitching wasn't there. Guys weren't quite ready, and just a really struggling piece for them. But I think the positive thing, I know here in the Corn Belt crew, we love Whit Rogers, and that was definitely, of all days, it was a pretty big day for Whit Rogers. 2 for 2 on the day with 2 doubles. It was really the only offense that we saw from the Rail Riders. And of all things, we talked about 2/3 of an inning for Riley Lang. Guess who closed it out? Guess who closed it out? It was Whit Rogers. Whit Rogers, and it seemed like it was a double day for him. His first batter let up a double. Still meaningful. Let up a double, gave up 1 run, but came in and got the last out of that one. So still something positive. I know we all love Whit Rogers so much. Definitely a character to talk about here in the Corn Belt League. But let's talk about our 7 p.m. matchup here at Seymour Smith. It was the News Channel Nebraska game. The Red Raiders, after winning back-to-back games, trying to get their season maybe back on track, falling to the Black Sox 4-2 in that one. 3-2 in that one. The graphic is incorrect on your page. 2 runs in the first, and then another. It was 4-2. 2 runs in the first, and then another 2 runs in the fourth, and it truly felt for the majority of it that the Black Sox were just in control. The offense wasn't there for the Red Raiders, and it truly was a bullpen day for them. Just kind of working multiple different guys. They started off with Curtis Flint, who really did not look good to start it off with. 48% strike percentage and 5 walks for him. On the other side of the mound, Eli Srnkovic, 5 innings pitched, 68 pitches in those 5 innings, just 2 hits allowed, did not allow a single run or an earned run in that work. 4 strikeouts, and the offense was there as well as when they needed him. Spencer Crane, Graham Porter, and Brandon Sweener, all guys able to come up at the plate for them with doubles, and the Black Sox set themselves up with a win with really pushing the Red Raiders down to their final 2 strikes. Then maybe some light for the Red Raiders. 3 consecutive singles made a 2-run ball game with runners on first and third, and an odd fielder's choice that went into right field, although did score a run, cut off by Ty Beasley, as Ty Beasley was trying to go from first to third, cut him off on that one. It was an odd loss for them, but still I think some hope for the Red Raiders, which they've seen such struggles so far this season offensively, but I think still something to get positive out of this loss.
Yeah, absolutely, and the key for them as of late, we last week on Around the Corner, we mentioned their couple wins at the beginning of last week on June 27th, June 28th. They've been able to get things going, and most of that's been sparked by the top 3 or 4 guys in their order. Ty Beasley, who we'll get to in a moment. You mentioned the 2-hit game for him. Ira Lee, Gabe Rtetic, TJ Sweeney have all been stepping up lately, and it's just a matter of, A, who can join them and make sure that the pressure is not on that top 4 lineup, because if you're a pitching staff on the other side, you can just key in on those guys knowing that the bottom half of the order isn't going to produce much. And then B, can the pitching come through, because as we'll get to in a moment when we talk over our pitcher of the week, the Red Raiders just endured a pretty big loss on the mound just yesterday with some breaking news.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about that as well. Let's get into another close game that we saw at our nightcap there out of Council Bluffs. We talked about a late inning comeback for the Red Raiders. They were trying to push for that one. A big one for the Filthballers as they take on the Crop Dusters. The Crop Dusters, again, losing 2 straight. It was kind of an odd piece for them, but I think looking at this Jared Jones' team for the Crop Dusters, they've been a team that's fought all season long. And again, I think it was obvious to tell. You talked about definitely a quicker game, at least only going 5 innings against the Rail Riders. It might have been a little bit of a deficit for the Filthballers, just being such a long game, having to deal with it so long, and have to be right back right after that one to be able to take down the Crop Dusters. They were down 5-1 heading into 5-2 heading into the 7th inning. Last week's pitcher of the week for the Crop Dusters, Anthony Comfort, threw 111 pitches in 5 innings. Only striking out 4 and giving up 9 hits, but found a way to leave 9 Filthballers on the base paths. So I think that was the biggest thing, to how he could minimize in that one and allow his bullpen to keep it there. But that wasn't the story. The bullpen gave up 3 runs in the top of the 7th to tie it up, and then another run in the top of the 8th. It was a kind of a last-ditch effort with bases loaded for the Crop Dusters in the bottom of the 8th, but couldn't pull through. And the Filthballers are just continuing to win any way they can.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, the Filthballers, they're showing why they're the best team in the league. Only 2 losses on the season, and that right there, those comeback wins against a team that may not be at the top of the standings when it comes to their rankings, but they have grit. Both teams had grit, and it was displayed very clearly in that game.
Yeah, and I think you have to give a lot of credit to the Crop Dusters, because the way to beat or at least get close to the Filthballers like they did is to not give them anything free and easy. And that's with walks, that's with errors, that's with hit by pitches. Crop Dusters only walked 1 guy. There were 2 hit batsmen on the Filthballers in that game, but the Crop Dusters did a really nice job keeping the ball in the strike zone and making the Filthballers earn their base runners, earn their runs. And on the other side, Filthballers had 10 walks on the mound, so a bit of a change-up in terms of that game. But nice work by the Crop Dusters. Maybe we'll see if a couple other teams can pick up on that recipe for success and focus on just pumping the strike zone and taking your chances, using that defense behind you, putting the ball in play, and trying to get some outs.
So now let's look at our weekend games on Friday, July 1st and Saturday, July 2nd. The Bombers take down the Haymakers 8-6. I think Zane Layden finally able to get back into his own rhythm. A complete game. Did allow 3 earned runs, 6 total runs in those 7 innings, but definitely a better outing for him after getting a little bit pieced up last couple of times for him. The Royal Blue Dogs lose in a really close one to the Black Sox. This was an issue of pitching. Just 5 hits for the Black Sox. However, 12 different walks and 4 different wild pitches from the Royal Blue Dogs pitching staff. 5 different guys went on the mound for them, and I think it just everything fell apart for the offense, which had done a really good day for the Royal Blue Dogs. The pitching just couldn't quite help them out.
I mean, yeah, you said yourself, 5 pitchers on the mound. Usually when you have that many pitchers, it's not going to be a good day. And besides Evan Heeb, the pitching staff for the Blue Dogs has kind of been more the bottom tier of the league.
Yeah, and you look at that doubleheader, it's so grueling and disheartening as it is when you play 2 long games like that and give up 22 combined runs and play the first one so close, score 11, but can't come out on top. And I mean, yes, the Royal Blue Dogs have to feel fortunate they had the All-Star break in front of them coming off those 2 games, but man, that just leaves a bad taste in your mouth. So although they didn't get a chance to play last night, we'll see what they look like going forward, coming off those 2 tough ones.
Yeah, 14 hits for the Royal Blue Dogs, 5 runs in the top of the 7th, but defensively, again, still not helping them out defensively. 6 errors in that one. A combined 9 different guys between 2 teams on the mound. 4 or 5 which do not have consistent pitching or pitching experience coming into this season. So again, the pitching has kind of been the weary pieces for some teams. The teams that do have that pitching that have been the teams that have been the most consistent. We've seen it with the Black Sox majority of the times. We've seen it with the Filthballers 100% of the time. They really have 3 or 4 guys that on other staffs you could easily call them their ace. They have a couple guys in the bullpen that are available too, and I think we've seen that from the Haymakers as well, who've been pretty consistent through their pitching staff. But then we look at Saturday. You mentioned the 10-3 loss for the Rail Riders, or excuse me, for the Royal Blue Dogs. The Rail Riders taking them down, finally able to get right, kind of back on track a little bit for the Rail Riders after dropping 3 straight. And the Haymakers blowing out the Red Raiders 10-2. It was a true bullpen game for the Red Raiders. 4 different pitchers on the mound. Only one of them having true pitching experience going to that one. That was Tanner Versalino. 3 extra base hits for the Haymakers and 7 walks. And again, the walks, the free passes, the free bases overall have kind of been the biggest story for teams that just kind of let games go.
Yeah, and the Haymakers as well are really starting to emerge offensively. You look up and down their lineup, and we're seeing a lot of guys bringing their OPS up north of 800, even 900 for guys like Dane Small, Tyler Nikolazak, Alec Villanueva. Jackson Doty doesn't have as much of a sample size, but he's up over 1,200. So Haymakers, if there's one team that could give the Filthballers a run in these next couple weeks, I know it's a pretty steep mountain to climb with the way the Filthballers have started the year. Haymakers could be that team with the way they've been swinging it.
So now I know we were waiting for it to talk a little bit about yesterday's whatever that was. I mean, that was just a mix of rain and wind, and I mean, it was just, I think we saw upward gusts of about 50 to 55 mile an hour winds here. The rain was off and on the entire day, but somehow we got through the 8-6 win for the Bombers. And I mean, as much it was raining, as much I was personally running around figuring out cameras and cords and finding things that I don't want to see submerged in water, but we're submerged in water, and hopefully they'll be all right. But I mean, out of all of it, we kept seeing the crop dusters keep coming back slowly and slowly and slowly with a couple runs here and there. I mean, if that game went the full distance, I think I was at least pushing for the crop dusters to find some kind of comeback. If we're going to stay here that long and deal with that much rain, why not see a comeback?
Yeah, I want to get to you, Logan. Is it actually 8-6? I thought 12-8 was what they reported
my
as.
fault.
Yeah, so it's even
it's
crazier than that.
It's
So go ahead, Logan.
Yeah,
12-8.
You know, I kind of want to say this. The rain was just, you know, whatever that was. I personally wasn't there. I know Jane was trying to reach out to me. You know, we have our own things that we have to deal with. You know, unfortunately, unable to make it, but still just keeping tabs on the game, a wild ride. And it just seemed like whenever the Haymakers kind of had some fire starting to brew up, the rain just washed it right out.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I mean, you can keep going. But
Yeah.
it was just. It was odd. I mean, we went from a 5 camera setup to it starts raining to, oh my goodness, our tent has just entirely collapsed to let's bring everything in to, okay, commentator shot way wide. Let's figure the rest of this one out. Again, want to apologize that on the ground. 12-8 was the final for the Bombers. Again, it was an odd day to say the least. Definitely a more of a sloppy game for both sides, and I think the rain and the weather factors were definitely inputting there, but it's just kind of an odd day overall.
Yeah, it feels like a game I'm going to tell my grandkids about, but I don't know in what kind of context. I mean, I don't know how many times Max, my color commentator, and I just looked at each other and went, what in the world is going on? Because before we even got to the 13 combined runs in the 5th inning, there were 6 stolen bases in the first inning and a half or so, and about half of those weren't traditional stolen bases. They were just guys running on pitcher and catcher batteries that were just kind of losing focus, and it was very hot.
It was probably 4 different delayed steals.
Yeah,
we saw
absolutely.
that for first inning and a half.
Absolutely, and it was 100 degrees out, so it's pretty easy to lose your focus. And I mean, the Bombers and crop dusters were just running wild early on, and then once the wind picked up and the rain came in, there was just no telling which way the game would go. I mean, man, that's one I'm going to look back on for a long, long time and think, I mean, I don't even know. What a weird day, as we've been saying.
Yeah, so again, 3 different games postponed. The Red Raiders and the Haymakers were our original 8 p.m. game here at Seymour Smith. Part of the Black Sox and Rail Riders, as well as the Filthballers and Royal Blue Dogs out in Council Bluffs were done. Again, the Red Raiders Haymakers games was a makeup, and it looks like we will get a makeup of the makeup back on June 7th, the first Tuesday night game that we had here at Seymour Smith. I mean, we saw green skies in Sioux City last night with the rain, and we saw a lot of fog and a lot of hail. It really seemed like it was a snowstorm, if anything, on June 7th.
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about that June 7th storm making it look like December, but I mean, that's just summer in Omaha. You don't really expect it. Usually when we get into July, this portion of the summer, the thunderstorms at least start to thin out a little bit. You don't get them every day like you do a few weeks in the summer in June, but man, oh man, they just won't stop. It's just been that kind of year, and the timing's been brutal with our broadcast schedule, like you brought up earlier.
Yeah, I think we need to make a push just to cancel all Tuesday games from henceforth, because they're just going to get rained out at some point in time. Wednesday is the day, the off day for the league. Might as well just switch them out, because you're going to get the game done unless you throw it on Tuesday. It's like a 50% chance it's going to go.
All right, so let's look after the weird last week that we've seen. Let's take a look at the Corn Belt League standings. Of course, the Filthballers still staying on top at 14-2. The Black Sox behind them at 3.5 games behind them at 9-4. Another game behind that is the Bombers at 3rd and 9-6. They're just half a game, ahead of the Haymakers at 4th. The Rail Riders and Crop Dusters sitting out at 5-6, 5-8 are the Rail Riders, 5-11 are the Crop Dusters. The Royal Blue Dogs, of course, after getting their game canceled yesterday, are 4-10, and still rounding out the bottom of the standings are the Red Raiders at 3-10. We thought we might see a little bit of a push for the Red Raiders. Sally, I know you're their reporter. We've seen from them. Ty Beasley had an incredible week. The offense kind of seemed to put some more things together, but still not quite able to get out of the basement.
Yeah, and I think it all starts and ends with the pitching, because that's what we were really looking at early on. I mean, Ty Beasley was one of our key players coming in for the Red Raiders, and he has produced. He's been the table setter and the producer for the Red Raiders so far in this one. But Josh Osten's has got to find a way to get going at some point. He's been very up and down. He carried, again, a sub-2 ERA throughout the spring up at Minnesota Morris, but still up around 4 and 5. And if you want to get up close with the Filthballers sometime in these next few weeks, you got to be better than that. And it's not just him; his whole teammates and the whole pitching staff. Just nobody's really come out of the woodwork yet and stood out on the mound and become that guy that can say, "All right, I'm going to carry this team for a week or two." And the Red Raiders just kind of need that, because it's going to feed off on everybody else.
All right, speaking of Ty Beasley, we'll take a quick break here on Around the Corner. Once we come back, we'll talk with our hitter of the week, Ty Beasley. back to Around the Corner and have our second segment here on the podcast. Tyler Reedy is with our hitter of the week, Ty Beasley. Incredible week for him. 6 for 10, 4 runs, 6 RBIs. Biggest thing that I personally saw was 7 stolen bases. It seems like every free base in front of him was his, and Tyler has him shortly.
Yeah, Ty, thank you so much for sitting down with us. Congratulations on Hitter of the Week. We were going to tell you live on the field last night when we were supposed to have you mic'd up, but obviously that didn't pan out. But we've got you here now, and thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
So first off, I want to go back to the All-Star game on Sunday because you were a participant in that. So what were your takeaways, and what were some of your favorite moments from that one?
I mean, I thought it was just really well put together. I had my buddy Josh, I know pretty well. He was on the corn eating contest. I loved watching that. We had the little kid run the bases like in the middle of the game, which is pretty cool. And just all together, it was really fun just to see kind of the best players of the Corn Belt just all in one area playing.
Yeah, for sure. Just a quick fun question while we're on the topic of corn eating contests and that kind of stuff. If you had to choose one food to eat competitively in a contest, what do you think you could win with?
I mean, I can put down a few hamburgers, but if I was going to go with one food, I feel like it has to be hot dogs.
Okay.
I mean, I've seen Joey Chestnut just go on his streak of wins, and I feel like I could compete.
Yeah, well, you've been on quite the streak at the plate, so let's get to that one. You're the team leader for the Red Raiders in batting average, hits, runs, RBIs, stolen bases, and OPS. So what's it like being able to lead this team in so many different ways out on the field this season?
I mean, it's nice. Obviously we haven't had the record we wanted, but, I mean, I feel that we're going in the right direction, and I feel if I can keep what I'm doing now, we get a couple other guys to step up like they have been recently, I feel like we can go on a run to end this season.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been seeing some better things offensively. You picked up a couple big wins early on last week. Now, you personally have obviously gotten a lot better as the season has continued, taking Hitter of the Week here in Week 4. So have you made any adjustments, or has it just been a matter of getting more comfortable at the dish this summer?
It's a matter of getting more comfortable. It's really weird to go from a metal to a wood bat right away. As like in the spring, it's all metal bat all the time, and then turning around and going to the wood, it's not as easy to adjust. But I feel like I've gotten well into it by now.
Now, I want to take you back to your game last Tuesday against the Rail Riders because I saw this final line in the box score and my mind was just blown. You went 3 for 3, a double, a triple, 2 walks, 4 runs batted in, 3 runs, and 4 stolen bases. How in the world do you have such an active night out there on the field? That's incredible.
I mean, it was, I was just trying to help the team win. It was a really high-scoring game, and we needed just a couple runs to get pushed over, and in that last inning, that triple, I mean, it was really big. It was really exciting for the team to have just such a big day like that, and I'm just out there trying to have fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So teams have been having a little bit more fun lately, picking up some big wins. So you said it hasn't been the best season so far record-wise for your Red Raiders, but feel like you're starting to get there. So what do you think you need to do as a team and what you yourself needs to do to keep things moving in the right direction here in July?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing is defensively. I feel like we have way too, we need to pick up the defense a little bit, my part included. But, like, just stringing hits together, like, we get the base runners. We have them all the time. We get the stolen bases. It's just about bringing those runs across with big hits, and I feel like we can get a little bit more of those at the end of the season.
All right, last thing before we let you go. I know you're a big Atlanta Braves fan, so you think you can chase down the Mets in these last 3 months?
I mean, of course. With Michael Harris coming up, being as big as he was in that winning streak that we had, and, I mean, Dansby playing like the MVP he should be, I mean, it's been fun watching them this season, and I mean the Mets always just collapse, so it's bound to happen.
Yeah, you got that right. Well, Ty, thank you so much for sitting down with us. Really appreciate it. Congratulations on a star-studded week, and best of luck in this final month of the Corn Belt League season.
Thank you.
All right, Ty Beasley, our hitter of the week.
All right, welcome back here on Around the Corner. I'm here with our pitcher of the week, Justin Drury. You had the incredible night up against the Rail Riders, 5 innings pitched, just 1 walk, 4 strikeouts, and I think the biggest thing for you was how well you were able to get battle and have weak contact, Justin, and I think that's been the biggest thing for the entire pitching staff for you guys this season. Between you, CJ Fleeman, Corey Palmer, all of you guys have done a really good job of allowing your defense to make plays. What's been the mindset for you?
I really just go out there and, I push the motto of see how far the guy can hit the ball, really. And it's like, it's a matter of, if he makes good contact, he makes good contact. Oh well, if he does, you just move on, try to get the next out.
So for you, kind of been, you can arguably say there's been 3 guys that have really been able to be an anchor for this entire pitching staff, but I think you've been the most consistent we've seen this season. 25 strikeouts and 20 innings pitched so far this year. What's it been like for you to not only know that you can be the number one, but have trust there's other guys available if you might not have your day?
We all go out there and we just do our stuff, and with us leading the league and most of the stats and wins, we all just go out there with the mindset of we're the best team. We're gonna go out there, do what we do, and if we lose, we lose. If we win, we win.
So going into that one again, it's kind of a doubleheader day to where you have a first game, then you have another game right after that. The mindset pitching wise can be different, right? You might have a little more taxed arms. What was the setup for you going into that game against the Rail Riders?
It was really just go out there and do what I know, and they put up, in the first inning, I had bases loaded, and it was kind of like, okay, like I gotta calm down, reevaluate the situation, and then from there I just went out there and just pounded the strike zone.
So I think that's been the biggest thing for a lot of different teams overall. The teams that really seem to give a lot of free bases have really struggled this year, and I think that's been really the opposite for the Filthballers this year. You guys have just been able to consistently get outs when you need to and consistently find wins when you need to. I think that was the big thing in the second game, actually, in that doubleheader up against the Crop Dusters. What's been that like for you to just know every single time the goal is to win, and that's all?
It's super big, being on a winning team and, having guys on the defense that you can trust. If I get a deep fly ball, I know, my outfielders are going to catch it, with Trevor being out there in center, and then, Brendan Anderson being out there in right field. They're coming really clutch on some hard plays.
All right, so for you, we're kind of getting to the second half of this season. Definitely some different looks, right, for you guys just kind of staying consistent at the top of the standings this season. What is kind of the goals for you for the second half?
Really just keep pitching better. I've gone out there, had some good games in the past, but, job's not done. We got to keep going, get the W in the season.
For you, I think a lot of different places or a lot of different players that come into this league, the main idea and summer ball overall is just to get better. Feel more comfortable, make sure you're getting consistent appearances. Is there anything specific you've been trying to work on this summer?
Mainly just getting innings. This was my first year being an actual pitcher, and so coming out here I felt like it would help me develop a little more, and I'd get more of the mindset of being a pitcher, and then just go out there and fill up the strike zone, throw strikes.
So we talked again kind of how big the team has been for you guys this season. Just so many guys have been able to produce. You talk about that one against the Rail Riders. You have 17 runs of cushion behind you. How comfortable is it for you to know you can just kind of play more smoothly when you have a lead like that?
Yeah, at that point it was like, if they score a run, oh well, my guys are behind my back and they're going to be able to produce for us.
So for this team, I think final thing to talk about here going forward for this group, you're trying to make sure that you can defend the title here in the Corn Belt League. What do you, as well as the rest of this team, have to do to defend that title?
Just keep our heads down, play with grit, not let anybody else come out there and, prove that they're better than us.
All right, cool. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
our pitcher of the week, Justin Drury. We'll take a quick break here and Around the Corner once we come back. Justin Drury's coach, one of the top teams that we've seen in the Corn Belt League in a long time, the Filthballers. All right, welcome back to Around the Corner. We're going to take a quick look just at the Filthballers season after being the reigning CBL, both regular season and tournament champions. A 23-9 record last season. They have not skipped a single beat here in 2022. A 14-2 record, best in the league. A plus 65 run differential, which is just incredible to think about. A 329 team average, a 255 team ERA, and a 135 team whip. All best in the league. We've seen 6, 7, 8 guys all just being consistent for this group. We talked about Jackson Horn was one of our Hitter of the Week nominees this year. We've already seen Brendan Anderson, who was our Hitter of the Week 2 weeks ago. We've seen Nolan Christensen, which was our Week 1 Hitter of the Week, which has been big for them this season. Landon Geezer's been another big guy that's kind of under the radar, and the pitching staff has not been able to skip a beat either. 3 or 4 different guys that we've seen so far this season for their pitching staff has been very consistent, able to get big innings for them, and all doing the job for them in his 4th season here in the Corn Belt League. Johnston Hobbs and Logan Mosley, you're talking to him.
Yeah, I mean, just to start off here, congrats on the incredible season so far. Like Jaden said, a 14-2 record. That right now is on pace to beat last year's record, which, if I'm not mistaken, was the best record in the Corn Belt League's history so far. So, just overall, congratulations on an incredible season.
Well, I appreciate it, and we really have to talk about the players and their execution, and they're the reason why we're at 14-2. I might have a little bit to do with it on the X's and O's and timing of some things, but these are the guys that go out there and get dirty for me and follow through on what we work on.
Yeah, I know we were talking off the air just a little bit ago. You were saying that last year's team and this year's team, a completely different approach and an improvement. While you've had some guys come back, how have you kind of incorporated this new system from last year to this year?
Well, last year's team was more of I think we had more power hitters, and we had I wouldn't say flashier, but we had a lot of athleticism, but we weren't exceptionally deep. We had guys that we could count on, 3 or 4 guys all the time, then some guys that got hot from time to time that helped out. But our approach was very workmanlike last year, like we were walking in suits to a board meeting. This crowd is like we're just like a merry bunch of idiots coming out to have a good time and very blue-collar approach, and we're just really deep. I can take players in and out, and you can't really tell who's come out or who's gone in. So my approach this year I lost the 3 best hitters in the league last year with Tyler Cate, Mitch Pomeroy, and Matt Keating. Brendan Anderson was hurt. So it's hard to replace one of those guys, let alone 3. So my whole idea this year is I'm going to get contact guys. And right now our contact rate and for the first half of the season is 80%. So if we put the ball in play, good stuff happens. And we just keep hitting. So it's a little bit different approach, but in putting this team together, that's kind of what we had to do. So they've responded very well. My hat's off to them.
Yeah, and that new contact type approach has really been working for the Filthballers so far. 2 hitters of the week and now also pitcher of the week. How does it how do these awards, you think, affect the team, and how they push forward and try to outperform themselves every week?
Well, everybody on the team will agree that those weekly awards are nice, and we're flattered by it, and they're very deserving. We've had 2 pitchers of the week and 2 hitters of the week, but I think our team goal is long term and end of the season. So although those things are nice, I think every guy that's won one would trade it in to win the league this year and be part of that. So if that happens this year, it will be even more special than last year, because just the odds of repeating are much harder than winning.
Oh, yeah. You don't talk about a three-peat often. It's one of the rarest things in sports, but really it seems like you guys kind of have a dynasty going in that shirt that you're wearing right now from last year. You kind of want to dive into that, because I know the hat and the shirt kind of both by yourself.
Yeah. It's kind of an attitude. That's what we want. It's if you're going to build a winning program, it's you against the world type thing. And it's not selfish. It's just that this is our family for the summer. There's 25, 26 guys that are spending a lot of time with each other away from their families for the most part. Although some are local, we spend a lot of time together. So if we're going to do that and we're going to spend all this quality time together, let's get something quality out of it. So I like to every year design a new shirt for my coaching staff. This would be last year's shirt because 2 years ago when we won it, nobody ever thought we could do it. So we started 10-19, and then we turned the corner and we didn't lose again, and that was a lot of fun. And that's where these hats came from. We started. We said, you know what, we're 25 guys in one team, so let's all wear the same hat. So we got my company put together the hats, and we got them made for them, and we haven't looked back since. So it's more of a feeling than anything.
Yeah, and you're also saying that these guys have come in away from their families. I know you yourself, you spend most of your time on the East Coast in North Carolina and Florida as well. So you kind of want to explain to the viewers kind of what you do on the side, because baseball here isn't your main priority for the rest of the year.
Yeah, this is my off season. So I coach during my off season. I own 224 Performance and Peak Performance, along with some other side companies that do other things outside of baseball. Basically, we're into talent evaluation. We'll go to leagues. We'll evaluate every player in the league 1 to 500. We'll rank them on 8 different metrics, so teams can draft a certain way. So it's almost like setting up for a fantasy draft, except we evaluate the talent. So we developed some software that goes through and allows teams to pick. I want a shortstop who hits well, who runs a good 60. It'll rank them 1 to 50. It'll do stuff like that. We also have a talent agency, so we represent several professional athletes along the way, and we've also created and patented some training tools.
Yeah, and also kind of just want to touch on the team a little bit more. Your guys' pitching depth this year has just been out of this world. When we look at the standings in total, one thing that we really notice is if they have a good pitcher, or a good pitching staff rather, your team is doing incredible. A 1.35 WHIP, a 2.56 ERA, both of those best in the league. What can you really attribute to that?
We started this season. We knew I recruited depth. If you're going to win a league, you got to have enough arms. So a lot of the kids I knew, we wanted to get guys at the beginning of the season to go 50 pitches or less the first week. Second week, 65 pitches or less. Third week, 75 pitches or less. And now, usually in the second half of the season, you see some attrition. You have guys go down, like we have 2 guys that are sick right now. We have one guy with an elbow problem. We have another guy who left for a different league. Now these guys are ready to pick up the torch and pitch 6-7 innings because they've rested the first half of the season. So everything we do is designed to get us to the second half of the season. The WHIP, I'm not real pleased with. I think we have too many walks and hits per inning pitched. I'd like to see it at 1.0 or better. 1.3 is definitely good for college. Our quality at bats are what I'm really impressed with. We're at like about 48%, which I think Soto leads major leagues with 48%. So our team averages what he's doing. So that's kind of how I can compare some things. And the pitching staff's definitely been good. Drury, you talked to him earlier, has been solid. He has a very unusual delivery with his time. I usually like an up-tempo delivery, and he's very methodical, but he mixes up his timing, so it really keeps hitters off balance. Palmer's been great, very quiet kid, so you don't hear much from him. Fleeman has been Fleeman, he's been good. Severston's been awesome. And then Theo Hughes, this is his second year for me, he just gets better every summer. So Big Theo, I think, has been really a pleasant surprise. I'm looking for big things out of him in the second half.
Yeah, you mentioned Theo, but I know there's some other players that have returned from last year's roster, or even 2 years ago's roster, that 10-19 starting team that ended up winning it. How have you noticed that those players have kind of taken initiative to be one of the quote-unquote team captains for your team?
Yeah, both Noah Wing and Brendan Anderson have been with me for 4 years. So those two have played more Corn Belt League games than anybody in the history of the league. And Noah was originally a catcher, and he came to me as a high school senior. They didn't think he could catch in college. He ended up being our second best hitter and having the highest caught stealing rate in the league as a senior in high school. And then he caught for me the past 2 years. This year he's a closer for us. Brendan Anderson has just been a masher ever since I've known him. He's been working with me for 4 years tirelessly on his hitting. And he's gone from power lifter to just strong. And that's changed his flexibility in the way he can handle some things. And now, you see what he does out here every single night. You just shake your head with some of the cool stuff that he does. He and Jackson Horn are just so much fun to watch at bat. It's ridiculous. So last year I had a lot of guys come back, but they moved on to other leagues. This year I have those two. They definitely help because they're extensions of the coaching staff. They know what's going to tick me off and what's not. Ordinarily, I'm pretty calm out there, but if I get wound up, the team knows pretty quick what it is I need done.
Finally, one last question here. We've talked about so much and how your team is constantly ranking the best in the league, whether it be the record, the run differential, all the statistics, yada, yada, yada. But what would you like to see your team improve on besides that 1.35 whip?
I think for us, sometimes when you are playing that well, you feel like you don't have to focus as much every game. And there was a game we lost focus that we were very fortunate to win not too long ago against the Haymakers. It was a TV game. I was not happy. We won. We ended up winning 12-7, but it was just a horrible start for us. We're lucky enough that we were talented enough that once we got our focus, and I won't say online how we got that focus back. I would like to see them a little bit more focused because the second half of the season's anybody's. We're not guaranteed anything. We've had a great run. We're not guaranteed our next game. We're going to try to play like we did the first half, but I would really like the guys to buckle down. It's the second half of the season and challenge themselves to maybe play 1% better every day and just be a little bit more focused, and the sky's the limit for this group.
Has been Coach Hobbs of the Filthballers. Send to a quick break.
Thanks, guys.
back here to wrap this one up here on Around the Corner. We're going to preview tomorrow's Thursday night showcase between the Rail Riders and the Filthballers. We'll take a quick look at the last 2 times that these teams played. It was a 4-3 win on June 27th for the Rail Riders. It was just the second loss of the season for the Filthballers. It was kind of an odd game. 2 different pitchers for the Rail Riders in that one. Garrett Bosica started it off with 3 innings pitched, allowed 2 runs, but Nick Mertzek was the big story. And I know we had Brendan Preisman on here last time, and he was a big Nick Mertzek fan as he was commentating that one. 2 hits, 1 run allowed, 4 strikeouts and 2 walks. Kind of more of a struggling day for Corey Palmer, but definitely not too bad of an outing for Corey Palmer, the losing pitcher. 4 innings pitched, 6 hits, 2 strikeouts, 0 walks. The biggest thing was the struggling hitting for the Filthballers. 6 guys left on base, but again, the biggest guy that we saw for that week and consistently for the 2 weeks kind of that time span for the last couple weeks in June was Brendan Anderson. 2 for 3, a double and a triple, a run and an RBI. On the other end, Jackson Van Pelt, Cole Ryan, and AJ Urban were kind of the biggest pieces for the Rail Riders. 4 RBIs between the 3, and I think it was just a big squeaker win for the Rail Riders, but a much-needed one.
Yeah, and although Brendan Anderson had that big day going 2 for 3, the Rail Riders did a really nice job limiting any big consecutive hitting swings for the Filthballers in that one. We see so often where they just have those big innings or 2 in a game where they just hit after hit after hit, base run after base run, and the Rail Riders simply didn't allow that. You see the stat line from Mertzek and Bosica, only 2 walks for each of them and no defensive errors made. So Rail Riders, like I talked about earlier with the crop dusters, just avoiding those unneeded mistakes.
Yeah, I know it's kind of weird to say Filthballers having a tough time hitting is kind of like one of those things you just don't think you're going to say. But, you end up saying it, and that's just there. Besides Brandon Anderson, like you said, it really was a tough day at the plate for the Filthballers. But one thing, after that interview there with Coach Hobbs, it kind of seems like, now I can't remember off the top of my head if this was the first loss of the season or the second for the Filthballers. It was the second. So that they started off, I believe, 9-0, was it, or something like that? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Great start.
Great start of the season. The one thing Coach Hobbs said he wanted to prevent was some sort of fall off after starting off hot, and now 14-2, coming back from the All-Star break. Haven't really had that much playing time with all the rainout games. It could be interesting. I'm not going to say the Rail Riders are going to win this one, but I think the Filthballers are. But don't be surprised. Like it's setting up for a potential upset. Like it's all there. It just needs to come together.
Yeah, and the second game, a very different story. We mentioned it, a 17-0 win. I think we kind of went over this one a little bit earlier in the podcast, but just so many different pieces for the Filthballers in that one. 5 different guys with multiple hits, all 10 starters, which were the only 10 guys actually that got to the plate for the Filthballers in that one, somehow reached base. 9 of them with hits. Just one guy went 0 for 1 with a walk. And other than that, the offense was there. Justin Drury with an incredible outing for him, just 74 pitches in 5 innings of work. Just an entirely different story from a lackluster offensive performance, at least for the Filthballers standards in the first game, to just a complete blowout in the second one.
Yeah, it's just got to be so frustrating when you're going up against that as the Rail Riders. Seems like the Filthballers are that one team in the league that can just switch things on to rookie difficulty all of a sudden and just have their way. And yes, the Rail Riders did start to make some more mistakes. You see the hit by pitches racking up. You see the walks. You see 2 defensive errors made, but all it takes is a couple of those and a few Filthballer hits. The Filthballers are going to get their hits. It's just a matter of whether or not you put guys on base ahead of them. And unfortunately for the Rail Riders, they were doing that. And it's something they're going to have to limit going forward tomorrow.
Yeah, like you were saying, if you have someone on the base pass there for the Filthballers, if you're going up against the Filthballers, you don't want them to get that RBI. They already have 109 on the season so far. So it's really up to the Riders here to try and just limit the mistakes first and foremost, but also secondly, you kind of want to limit your pitches and kind of try and play things strategically. You don't want this to be a bullpen ball game, but at the same time, you need to really push your team forward to say, hey, if we do this, then this. We just need to follow a script, a schedule, and we should be fine.
So yeah, I think you're getting ahead of us here, but let's look now at tomorrow. I think the probable starters for these 2 teams, most likely Garrett Bosica or Nick Mertzek, which we saw in that first game for the Rail Riders, could be either C.J. Fleeman or Corey Palmer, with technically the night off, if you want to call it, on Tuesday, with both of them available for the Royal Blue Dogs game. But of course, that one getting rained out. And I think you see both times, if we see again Corey Palmer versus Nick Brissett, Corey Palmer versus Garrett Vosika, I mean, is it going to be a different time looking at the same guys for the second time? You've seen this guy before. It's going to be a different story at all? Does that play a factor at all?
For me, I think it's advantage hitters because the first time around, the pitchers had their way. That you look back to the game on Monday, none of these guys were factors in the game 17-0 on Thursday, but Monday, that 4-3 game, and the guys shoved, and it's up to the hitters to make adjustments. So the hitters are going to be coming in thinking, all right, what did we see against these guys last time? Rather than the pitchers. I don't think the pitchers will be trying to make quite as many adjustments in my mind's eye. I think the hitters will be more focused on, all right, these guys got me last time. I got to figure something out. And I think we'll see a little bit more offensive fireworks coming up.
Yeah, also, when you just look at other sports across the board, the hardest thing to do is a sweep of any kind because you're playing against a team 2 or more times, so you have all that experience and film against them. I don't know, it could go either way, but when you look at things in that perspective, it's a coin toss, really.
So I think before we wrap this one up, I think we want to first take who's your guys' pick for tomorrow.
I got to go Filthballers. I mean, it's the hot hand right now, and I mean, it's just until further notice, I have no reason to pick against them, quite frankly. So 15-2, chalk it up.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't pick the Filthballers in this one, I know I was just saying it's there for an upset, and all the pieces are there. It's just really, really hard to connect those pieces together. It's like a Lego brick and then some weird knockoff version of one. It's hard to put them together, but if you're able to, good for you. But otherwise, I got the Filthballers in this one.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go the same with you guys. I think the pitching is going to struggle on both ends comparatively. I think you mentioned it, Tyler. The offense is going to be the big thing. I think it's just going to be a difference between if we see C.J. Fleeman or if we see Corey Palmer. I think if it's going to be a C.J. Fleeman for the Filthballers, I like them in not a rout, but definitely a bigger win for them. If it's Corey Palmer, I think maybe again seeing him for a first time may give them an opportunity to get some more offense. I think that'll be a closer matchup between those two teams. But I'm still going Filthballers either way.
Yeah, and there's so much more offensive depth with the Filthballers because even if it ends up being, again, a low-scoring contest and some guys aren't hitting, the Filthballers just have so much more offensive talent that you can get 3 or 4 guys to pick up those 3 or 4 that aren't necessarily producing, more so than I think the Rail Riders can. So depth is another big, big key in really any matchup the Filthballers are involved with.
All right, so final thing here. Sorry, I was
No.
go over here. Final thing here before we wrap this one up. We talked about it last week. I wanted to talk about actually 2 things before we wrap this one up. First, something about the league. Second, something a little more fun, which we mentioned both these last time. First, who can catch the Filthballers? I mean, we're in the second half. Definitely the tides can change. Who do you feel is the team, one, that can get towards maybe the Filthballers, or 2, have the biggest second half flip?
As far as catching the Filthballers, I'm still watching the Bombers and the Haymakers. Just looking at the Bombers last night, I think they're really starting to find a strong identity in the top of that order with especially Danny Sponberg. Just getting on base, stealing bases. That team runs extremely well. They play incredibly in the outfield. Tanner Black and Danny Sponberg out there as well in center field and right. Saw another diving catch out there. So I think if they can start to use their speed to create extra runs, manufacture their own runs, that's a great way to keep up with the Filthballers team that will be scoring. And then the Haymakers as well. They've been really coming on as of late. Unfortunately, didn't get to see them last night, but I think we'll see them make a big jump as well. And as far as biggest turnaround, I think the Crop Dusters could be a team to climb up into at least that 500 territory, maybe the upper third of the league, because I think early on, obviously they were the expansion team, so to speak, that 8th team joining the league, and it was tough getting their foot in the door and getting everything settled, but now they're here. They know they've got a stud in Anthony Comfort, and I think we'll find them starting to pitch a little bit better, finding some more guys on that mound that can give you consistent innings, and I think maybe these next couple of weeks they can jump into that middle part of the pack.
I think for me personally, I have to go with the Bombers again. I mean, when they started off their season, it was such a weird circumstance. Their coach was in, was it Idaho? In Idaho, the College World Series. So their coach wasn't even there to start off the season. They had to split with the Blue Dogs head coach there. So that entire team dynamic starting off where, with the Filthballers and those other teams up top, they had those few weeks together. First time we I think the first time the coach, I'm blanking out on his name, the Bombers coach.
Austin Alexander.
Yes. The first time that we met him was when we were at Top Golf all together with everyone, joining out. So, it really was fresh into the league for him. It started off rough for the Bombers, but now sitting at 9-4 there, they've got all the things. They just need them to click together. And these are actual 2 Lego pieces this time that are able to click together. But I think the Rail Riders, honestly, I think they're just so close. It's just 1, 2, 3 at-bats, plates, appearances, 2-3 errors away from projecting themselves all the way to a plus 500 team. They're just so close. They just need to make a few different changes, and they should be able to make it.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Black Sox for my team to be able to possibly go past the Filthballers. Of course, 9-4, the second place team. It's easy for say, okay, this is going to be the team that could catch them. I think it's the only other team that I truly think both have the availability of the pitching depth that is decent enough to be able to get some way in the Filthballers. I mean, you see Eli Sirkovich has been really good at the top. I think we've seen both him and Aaron Madden kind of both vibe back and forth between the 1 and 2 spot. I think Aaron Madden is a little bit more of the ace, but the offense can be there. I think that's the biggest thing. Just when the offense shows up. When they do, they're going to be a great team. When they don't, it's going to be a Sherling grinding type of game. So I think if they can put everything together, like you mentioned, putting the Lego pieces together, however you want to put it, I think that is a way for the Black Sox to be able to do it. Biggest flip, I'm going to still say with the Crop as well. I like your take, Tyler. I mean, the biggest thing for them that I see with Coach Jared Jones, that entire group, and especially the guys that I've seen from out of West Virginia West, and the 3 guys there, Thatcher Poteet, AJ Ventry, as well as Jack Tilton, that whole group between those 3 is just, it's really fun to see them play. I mean, that's the biggest thing with the Crop Does. They want to have fun, and they want to keep playing. That was the biggest thing yesterday or on Tuesday. It's pouring down rain, and they want to keep playing because they want to win. And that's the mentality I think you have to have, is just, be out there, want to have fun, and want to win ball games, and don't think too much about it when you don't, right? Understand things are going to happen, but the biggest look can be there for the Crop Fest.
Yeah, and that's another great point to bring up about that weird game yesterday. After the Bombers took that 12-3 lead after the 5th, and they suspended the game, Crop Dusters got 5 runs back in the bottom half. Rain kind of started again, and it was 12-8 after the 5th, and they were about to end the game and cancel it, and Crop Dusters coaching staff came sprinting out down to the third baseline and said, no, this thing's not over. We still got a chance. And I think we saw with Thatcher Poteet on the mound how a little fired up and how kind of balled up emotion he was getting up on that mound, even when he wasn't getting some calls, was struggling trying to nibble on the corners. Those guys want the ball. They want to be out there, and the coaching staff's right with them. And for a team that's here for the first time this summer, I think that's a great way to really develop some team chemistry and think, hey, we all got each other's back, and that'll bode well for late season baseball and going into these playoffs.
All right, cool. Thank you guys so much. Thank you everybody for being able to be a part of this here today, here on Around the Corn. That's going to wrap this one up. From Jaden Taylor, our entire Corn Belt League crew, have a wonderful day. We'll be back next Sunday with another doubleheader.